Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is Kid at BloodyElbow.com. Joined once again by Zane Simon for the sixth round of UFC 203, featuring Stipe Miocic in his first title defense over Alistair Overeem, live from Cleveland, Ohio. First round, 4 minutes, 27 seconds. Knocked him out with punches. Very action-packed round. Very weird fight. One of the most it's just a capstone on Alistair Overeem's weird and semi-embarrassing career. For a guy who's put together a near-great MMA career, he is just never going to be one of the greats because of pulling crap like this. What the hell was he doing tonight?
The weird thing is that like all things considered, that was probably the third that didn't even come off weird for how weird this card was.
Yes,
Like,
true. That was a very deeply weird card. The fight before that, Fabricio Verdum beat Travis Brown by unanimous decision, and then gets into a scuffle with Brown's coach and Ronda Rousey's coach, Evan Taverdian. What the hell was that about?
yeah, I mean, it looked. I don't know if you saw the replays, but Verdum started going like this afterward. I don't know if he was taunting the
Mhm.
fans or taunting Brown. Edmund, either way, took some harsh offense to it because he seems like the kind of dude who takes offense at that kind of thing. Started shouting at Verdum, and so Verdum just front kicked him in the stomach.
Yes,
And
and that was and I completely blame the guy who was the victim of the assault.
I know because I mean Tarverdyan's the kind of dude who, some fighters say doing whatever he wants over there, and he's running over there to confront him and yell at him like this dude just fought somebody in a cage. If you're gonna, this is not the time to roll up and try to be the tough guy on the block.
No, it definitely isn't. But let's get back to the title fight. Alistair Overeem very nearly beat Stipe Miocic, and this might have been the smartest fight Overeem could fight. He did not look to
Oh yeah.
be in particularly good shape, and he was right to be fearful of exposing his chin to Miocic's power, but he was basically running away, turning his back, running circles around the cage, and then jumping back in with outside shots, and it worked, but it just looked terrible. The optics of it, if you were a Cleveland fan rooting for your hometown kid in Miocic, you would have to be just slathering for Overeem's blood.
Yeah, I mean it's the kind of thing that gets everybody on Jackson Wink fighters when they have fights like this. It's really smart. Overeem's new style, his stick and move style, and this is like the stickiest, moviest of his stick and move style. It's a smart way to fight for a dude who doesn't have a chin and has great athletic ability. Just betting on being faster and getting in and out and creating problems with your athleticism for your opponent is really a smart way to go. But when you just, Stipe is not as half as slow as a lot of the guys that Overeem has been fighting, and he's not as worn either. Like
Yes.
Arlovsky's maybe that fast, but Arlovsky's kind of got to take it easy on the gas tank, or he'll burn himself out. He's got a lot of fight miles. Stipe doesn't fight that way. He fights like a much younger guy, and he can run around. He can chase people down, and I think that made Overeem have to hustle that much harder to get out of the way, which looks that much worse.
Yes, and then and Miocic took quite a few shots from Overeem, particularly early in the fight. Was hurt right away, but recovered. At one point, was in the famous Overeem guillotine that old-time fans remember from the Pride days. That was Alistair's go-to in his early days of his career. But Miocic got out of that. I really thought Overeem had him at that point, but it was not to be. And Miocic came back, hurt him on the feet, and finished him with just a little over 30 seconds left in the round.
Yeah, I mean it's a great performance, honestly, to me from Miocic. If he was gonna fight an aggressive fight and chase Overeem down, he was gonna get hit. Like Overeem's fast enough, talented enough, a good enough striker, varied enough that he was gonna hit Stipe, and Stipe being able to weather the storm, fight through it, continue to press his game, and make the openings he needed to win. Like I don't have any real concerns about that. Like, yeah, he got hurt, he got dropped, he could have got finished, but that's heavyweight. I mean, there's a reason that belt never gets defended more than twice.
Indeed, and now we'll get to see if Miocic can do it. Who do you see it next? Cain Velasquez?
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, I think. Well, Yeah, I mean, I would assume it's got to be Cain Velasquez because I can't imagine that the UFC is too happy with Verdum after that fight.
No, the twofer of pulling. It's not in a way the Verdum Brown fight was a great fight. I mean, it opened with this flying sidekick. Verdum showed no respect for Brown whatsoever. He was pulling all kinds of ridiculous nonsense, spinning kicks, forward tumble kicks. I mean,
Yeah,
just no respect, and clowned Brown a couple times, knocked him on his
like
ass once.
it. It's kind of sad, honestly, because we've seen Fabricio Verdum beat Travis Brown once. We already
Yes,
knew who the
fought
better
for
fighter.
5 rounds.
Yeah, we knew who the better fighter was here without question.
Yeah, going into it because it wasn't 5 back and forth rounds. I mean, Brown had his moments in the first fight,
Yeah,
but
he
Verdum
had
won
his
all
moments
five
early, but
rounds.
mostly it was Verdum being much better.
Yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago. It was 2 years ago. It was
No,
not a life. They were not radically different fighters now. So the weird
nope.
thing seeing this is like Verdum fought like the like trashiest circus grade clown on the planet and just totally beat the pants off of Brown and then
Yes,
spent a round and a half fighting this totally boring range kickboxing points fight and still beat the pants off of Brown. Like
yes,
Brown just
yes.
had no business in that fight with Fabricio Verdum.
No, he seemed utterly demoralized from the get go. And when Verdum came out with the flying sidekick, I mean, and he landed it and it hurt him. I mean, it was beautiful. You would think that a fan would be thrilled with that, but then by the time you get through the second half of the second round and the entire third round, you're just like, get off my TV, dude. I cannot stand to see this anymore. And then to have the ridiculous scuffle with Taverdian afterwards for Doom, you've got to know Dana White is furious at that.
Yeah. It that like when Mickey Gall versus CM Punk is not the competitive low point or the sporting low point of your card, you know that you fucked up somewhere along the way. Like
Yes, yes. I mean, really, it was bad booking. I mean, there was no reason to book that fight. It's
no.
just the way the cards were shuffled. These two guys came up and needed an opponent at the same
Yep.
time. And here we go. And speaking of Mickey Gall and CM Punk, if the first round and a half of the Verdun fight had been maintained, if that level of pace and beating had been maintained, I was going to say that Travis Brown got shown out even more than CM Punk because Mickey Gall completely had his way with CM Punk, but he was down to business. It was takedown, it was get the back, get the choke, gang, gang, gang. It was not let's try a flying side kick to open the fight, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'll throw in some wheel kicks. How about a spinning elbow? I mean, a forward tumble kick. I mean, twice.
If you
Just
if you're a kid who's expecting to be a good fighter down the road of any like any kind of standard UFC level talent, Mickey Gall had exactly the right fight that you're supposed to have over a dude like
sure.
Bill Brooks.
Oh yeah, it was MMA 101. It was an exhibition of this is what mixed martial arts is,
Yeah, and
and
it's also it just shows like when you're that raw, when both opponents, both fighters are that early on and that raw and that low level, just being totally mindlessly unchecked aggressive is gonna win you like 85-90% of fights.
although aggression's probably what caused Gall to have, I mean, Punk to have as bad a showing as he did because he charged in too quickly, was not even in position to sprawl on the takedown. I mean,
No, I think he thought he was gonna go out and like throw a flying knee or do some special shit that they'd been working on in his gym to be like, oh, you got no idea what's coming out of CM Punk, and it ended up being a lot of blood.
yes, yes, yeah. I had zero interest in seeing him fight before because we answered this question 20 years ago. Like we
Yeah,
know what happens when you take a moderately athletic, middle-aged guy who's never fought before and put him in there against somebody with fighting skills, particularly jujitsu. We know what happens. I
even
don't
not
need to
a
see
lot of
this.
fighting skills. Like it doesn't take that many to beat up a dude who's coming in with almost nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Who can't sprawl on a double leg takedown? I mean, he went down like a sack of potatoes. It was pathetic. I mean, just feeble. But it's what we expected. And the main thing is, they already. I've always thought that they signed him to keep him away from Bellator because Bellator could have turned a CM Punk fight into a real fiasco of a Friday night on Spike TV that would have given the UFC a headache.
The interesting thing I'm wondering about is if Punk is as dedicated as he sounds to taking another fight, does the UFC try to find him another one? Because I mean, how many dudes can you find that aren't just going to stomp a mud hole in him?
I know, because if you put him in with somebody like Matt Brown, who would toy with him and sadistically, it
Well,
would.
yeah, but like not even Matt Brown, but just like any other kid, like Mickey Gall.
Yeah, yeah. Sage
Punk
Northcutt.
loses to 99% of Bellator undercard fighters. Like,
Yes, yes. There's no reason to expect any kind of anything out of him as a mixed martial artist. I mean, I would not bet on him in the local circuit against anybody. I mean, unless he went to the place in California where they dredge up the
explode. Yeah,
crackheads.
they could bring in a junkie who needed $500.
Yes, yes. Fresh from being posed in front of his 4-year-old by the police, and then dragged into the fight as CM Punk. So yeah, no, just feeble, it was sort of fun because he's a celebrity and everything else, and because for whatever reason people are furious about it. But that was that. But let's talk about bantamweights. Jimmy Rivera, unanimous decision over Uriah Faber. Faber has slowed down quite a bit, but you got to say this: a guy whose game is based on the eye poke, he still ages with most of his game. I mean, that was the most flagrant. Like even Rogan had to admit he
Yeah,
just poked him in the eye. He wouldn't bring himself to say the term rake, which was the technical term of when you
yeah.
extend your claws and you rake it across your opponent's face, aiming at the eye. That
Favor's
was
Favor's
whack.
a veteran of this elite MMA game, and the elite boys, the top of the division, they play for keeps.
Yes,
Some
yes.
dude's got one up on you. You know you're gonna lose this fight. You throw a groin kick. You throw an eye poke. The ref's gonna give you a free one, and maybe you turn the tide with that.
Well, it's happened before. I mean, it hasn't been that long ago
Yeah,
that Faber was losing a fight and turned around against Francisco Rivera and was getting his ass kicked and then poked him in the eye and choked him out.
yeah. So
So,
it was worth a shot.
yep, yep. But I have to say, this is probably the end of Uriah Faber as a top flight fighter in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where he's kind of been on this legacy track where he's been fighting, he's been winning non-title fights, but the guys he's been winning them against, Frankie Saenz, Francisco Rivera, Alex Caceres, even questionably Michael McDonald, they're not guys who are necessarily actual top contenders. They're not dudes on a track to be top
Yeah,
contenders.
yeah. It's not
McDonald
like
being
back when he was beating Rafael Sunkau and Take Mizugaki and Eddie Wineland and Brian Bowles. It's not like that. There was a period when Faber was in this netherworld, just under the champs, but well above everybody else. That period ended a long ass time
Yeah,
ago.
and they've been giving him the right fights to still be very competitive and win. And this
Yes.
was just like, Jimmy Rivera's, he's more in that Cody Garbrandt, Aljamain Sterling, uh, Thomas Almeida class. Like, you don't want to put Faber in against those dudes. Those are
And
the
not
dudes.
unless you're just squeezing the last juice out of Faber, which is a
Yeah.
perfectly logical thing to do at this point. And I mean, Rivera's not, I think, the most charismatic of that class. I would like to see Cody Garbrandt get a crack at Faber instead, but
But they're
uh,
the same team, and there's no way
yeah.
that would ever happen.
So, they made the most of it. I mean, but Rivera didn't exactly leap on the opportunity. I mean, he was cracking the shit out of Faber's legs, but it was mostly single strike stuff. He wasn't going for the kill. He wasn't pressuring.
Well, I think
Um,
Faber he was fighting a very, I don't want to get KO'd fight. And so Faber had a lot of like, I'm out at range. I'll throw something that I can stay outside and defensive on. So if he comes forward, I can jump back. And it was a lot of not committing. And every time he did commit, Rivera hit him really hard. But I think Rivera just figured out early on all he had to do was wait for every time Faber committed, and then he could hurt him. And he
yeah,
forced Faber just to not commit very often because of it.
yeah, yeah. And so, but nonetheless, it was not a star-making performance for Jimmy Rivera.
No.
And then in the opener, you had a women's strawweight, Jessica Andrade, submitted Joanne Calderwood, first round, 4 minutes, 38 seconds, guillotine choke. Andrade has looked impressive at strawweight.
Yeah, she's a beast there. She's got just she's built on that Claudia Gadella scale with a lot more fluidity and consistency in her punching and her boxing, and it's going to make her a fun fighter in that division. When you have that kind of raw physicality, she
Do
could be
they
a
rush
staple in
her
the top
right
five.
into a title shot?
Should she get a title shot?
Yeah.
I mean, she might as well. I don't see any reason not to give her a title shot. I don't think that she's going to be not ready. Like, she's still young. She's still gonna improve. She's only 24, but she's also got 20 fights under her belt. She's as experienced as anyone in that division. And
If you were
we're
her
getting,
or her manager, would you take a fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk right now, or would you try to put it off and get another fight under your
I
belt
would take
first?
one right now, honestly. I think she's young enough that she can still bounce back from a tough loss if she has to take one. And she's on a really good run of form that, she hasn't been solved at strawweight yet. And there's always, there's a chance the longer you hang around, maybe
Somebody
fighters
will figure it out.
they start to figure out what you're doing. And I think that, Andrade is she's got the kind of style and physicality to her that I don't see any reason that she can't be a, borderline top 5 fighter for the next 5 years. So you might as well start taking your big fights when you can get them.
Yep. I agree completely. All right. And then the 4-fight Fox Sports 1 prelim card, you had women's bantamweight Besh Kahea beat Jessica Ai, split decision, pissed off the Cleveland crowd. I was not wowed by this bout.
No, it was a terrible fight, and I'm kind of glad I lost it because she's kind of a dick. I like every time I want to root for her, she always says some shit that I'm just like, really? But also, she's got this terrible mindset problem that will not go away. And, I was talking about like, oh, she's at home. She's never felt more confident. She's got this therapist. I'm like, I'm not really sure that I need more confidence. Like, her problem in the past has always seemed to be that she's so certain that everything's going to work for her that she just doesn't have to, she doesn't really fight that hard. And that just kind of seemed like what happened here. Like, she thought she was up 2 rounds and coasted out the third round after an incredibly close second round.
Yeah, that was a terrible, terrible idea. I think she was relying, I don't know, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she was relying on the hometown judging. Come on. I mean, like that had to have been an element in her thinking.
And
Anyway,
I scored the fight for her, but I also at the end I was like, look, if they score this 30-27 Betchkohea, I'm not going to argue with that. Like, every round of this fight has been ugly and close, and neither woman looked like they were willing to commit to actually winning the fight. And when you have fights like that, it's like, who cares how it's scored at the end of
yeah.
the day?
And for the record, all three judges split it 29-28. It just 2 of them went for Correa and 1 went for I. Then you had middleweight Brad Tavares beat Cal Magalhaes, split decision. This one did have 130-27 card for Tavares. Again, not a particularly enjoyable fight.
No, but the dude who scored that for Magalhaes was drunk.
Yes. Not quite as bad as the Oompa Loompa that refereed the heavyweight fight between Verdum and Brown. That guy, I was so furious with for
Baby Brock.
yes, one of the most bullshit calls. Brown got punched in the finger and then called a timeout, which is not legal.
Yeah, he was TKO'd. That was
Yeah.
The fight was over. He TKO'd himself. He disqualified himself from that fight.
Yes, the fight should have been called at that point, and the referee seemed to have no clue what to do. Eventually, called a timeout and had the doctor check in. I think the referee thought something was wrong with Brown's glove.
Yeah,
Which,
I think that's what it was. And well, no, because the ref said this is over, and then they brought the doctor in for some reason, and the doctor was like, "Oh, we can put the finger back in, it's fine," and it's like, "Oh, I guess it's not over."
yeah,
Like,
it was.
I think he just kind of he was gonna stop it, and then just decided that if the doctor didn't want to stop it because the injury wasn't bad enough,
And the fighter didn't want to stop it. Then
then
all right.
why stop it? Even
Yeah.
though it should have just been a TKO loss.
Yeah, it was a terrible performance. I mean, Ohio doesn't host a lot of UFCs, and
That
not
he's been a mainstay ref for them for a while now, though.
yeah in Ohio.
Is it only in Ohio? I think I've
I
seen
mean,
him
I
around
haven't.
other shows.
He's not in the big time shows, and Ohio has a notoriously bad commission. So, it just anyway, that guy was infuriating. All right, then you had Nick Lentz in a catchweight bout, 158 pounds, beating Michael McBride, who fought on short notice. TKO, second round, 4 minutes 17 seconds. It looked like what you would expect with a very experienced fighter who had a full training camp against a much less experienced fighter who did not.
Yeah, Michael McBride's like watching tape on him before this. I'm like, man, this guy's not that good, and he's probably gonna get mauled. Although if I'm in Lentz's corner, like if I'm his cornermen and his coaches, I want to show him that footage of him getting injured by the dude who's just winging arm punches at him like a car dealership wavy man, and like at that point that he's getting hurt by that, and be like, dude, you cannot let this happen. Like,
Yeah, that
you had a
was.
guy in front of you that was made to just be run over, and he I think he dropped Nick Lentz with one of
He
those.
did, he did, and Lentz complained after the fight that McBride had a really awkward style, that he
Yeah,
was really bad at a lot of things, but really good at a couple other things. And I, you would have to think that's referring to the punches he caught him with, but yeah, it didn't look, it wasn't good form. I think it was just that it was such spectacularly bad form that Lynch wasn't expecting it and hadn't
yeah,
trained against it, and those punches were coming from places he wasn't expecting them to come from. But nonetheless, he passed the test with ease and
yeah,
beat the
no
piss out of
problem.
McBride and got the TKO stoppage. Then in the opener, you had the Fox Sports 1 opener, you had Drew Dober at lightweight beat the piss out of Jason Gonzalez, minute 45 seconds. Gonzalez was utterly outclassed, and it took, I mean, Dober had him out on his feet several punches before he dropped him or got the referee to stop him. I don't think he ever dropped him, but I mean, it was a sustained beating on the feet.
I think everybody, including the ref, was just surprised. That's Dober's first TKO in 6 years, like his first knockout in 6 years. I think everybody was just kind of like, "Oh, he's not going to knock him out. Why do I need to care?"
And then he did. I mean,
Yeah,
and I don't know if it's a testament to Gonzalez's chin, because that first punch in the series was a hell of a punch, perfectly placed. And I couldn't believe Gonzalez was still standing and attempting to fire back after that, but Dober just kept pouring it on. So, yeah, a breakout performance for Drew Dober in a fashion. And then in the opener, you had Yancy Medeiros defeat Sean Spencer by submission, rear naked choke, 2 minutes. Second round, 49 seconds. Uh, a little back and forth tussle. Spencer didn't embarrass himself. He got some shots in there, but Medeiros, to me, seemed like the much quicker athlete. He totally punched him out and then submitted him.
yeah. I mean, Medeiros, he should have been at welterweight a long time ago. He started at 205 and then dropped all the way to 155. He made a jump, in fact, from 185 from Strikeforce to 155 in the UFC, and it was always just like, why are you skipping 170? You're kind of huge.
Yeah,
And he always looked
and
like a skeleton down there. And this is his first fight at 170. He looked solid. Still has no defense. Still has this funky, janky, weird offense where he'll do nothing for like 20 seconds and then throw out some random combo that you don't expect. But he was good enough to beat Sean Spencer. So I'm happy.
indeed, and also you got to give a shout out to the elevator drop that took out CB Dalloway and
Good.
canceled his bout with Bohoso. I mean, that said it all for me about this card. It's like when you're losing fights to an elevator drop in the hotel at the weigh-ins, it's just a little bit snake bit. And to review, Stipe Miocic defends the heavyweight belt, beats Alistair Overeem first round, 4 minutes 27 seconds. Back and forth fight, although not a satisfying one, because Overeem, pulling the Jackson Winklejohn style, was literally running away from Miocic at every opportunity. So it was, I mean,
I
it
mean,
was
I really liked the
entertaining.
fight. I didn't have the problem with it that you have. I'm going to say I liked the fight, and I especially
I
liked.
didn't say I didn't like the fight. I said it was infuriating to watch Overeem's performance,
I just
particularly.
love that he kept up and went full heel afterwards, being like, "I tapped him. What are you talking about? I won the fight."
That was, yes. Oh, Overeem. This is I still, when I see Overeem like this, part of me still is furious that we have to get so religious about the steroids that we can't have Alistair Overeem anymore. I mean, when he used to come in roided to the gills and just raging and throwing people around, it was very, very fun to watch.
It's true. It's true. At
Yeah.
least, I mean, at least the fight was fun. That's
It's true. It was very entertaining back and forth. At one point, I thought Overeem had when he had Miocic hurt, and then went for the guillotine, but could not finish it. But then, coming on top of the Verdun Brown fiasco, the Gall Punk fiasco, the Rivera Faber fiasco, and then not spectacular. Well, the Andrade Calderwood fight was a perfectly good opener, nice little pot boiler to get things going. But 3 fights in a row that were pretty much stinkers.
And
and
on
weird.
top of Magalesh, Tavares, and Betchko, hey, Jessica I, which were not
Yes.
anything.
No. And so a little bit of a snake bit night, but the main event, and then and for me the highlight was just seeing Verdum show Travis Brown zero respect. I mean, zero respect. And at the end, to be doing the boo hoo hoo thing, and to fucking take what did he throw? A teep kick at
It
the
was a teep,
Verdian?
yeah, teep.
Yeah, he teeped him. I mean, that is a shot of contempt when you teep somebody. And like, this is your move. It was just, oh my
Yeah,
God.
I think Nate Diaz shows more respect to his opponents than Fabricio Verdum showed Travis Brown in there.
Yes, absolutely. And I cannot when the time comes when we no longer see Edmund Taverdian in the corner of the UFC, it's not soon enough for me.
Don't say that, because in like 3 days we're gonna get the audio from him cornering this fight, and we're gonna transcribe it, and we're gonna run it, and it is going to be huge, and I am so looking forward to that.
It's true. It's true. The guy is definitely not a qualified cornerman, but he's a colorful cornerman, and the stuff he
He's a gift
says.
to us.
Yes, he's a gift to the MMA media. So we've gifted you enough. That's all we got. So follow us on Twitter at KidNate, at TheZaneSimon. Subscribe to us on YouTube, MMANation.com. Give us a thumbs up down below. Subscribe to us on iTunes for the audio without the ugly, MMA Nation with no.com on iTunes. Read us at BloodyElbow.com. Eugene will be back with Knuckle Up on Monday. Next week we'll have all the fixins, I think, a day late. What's up next week anyway?
Hidalgo, Poirier versus Johnson.
Yes, the UFC Fight Night, and that will be on Fox Sports 1 on September 17th in Hidalgo, Texas. There, enjoying the border of Texas and Mexico. They've discovered that there are some fight fans down there in the valley, and they are selling them tickets.
And
so,
Texas cards, that won't get weird.
no chance of that. One of the best regulated. Yes, indeed. We don't even have an athletic commission. We have some sort of Department of License and Regulation.
The guys who didn't issue hunting license issue fighter licenses.
Indeed. Yes, that says it all. So, anyway, adios, MMA aficionados. And thanks, Simon. We'll see you next time.